I'm standing here with Abel from New Hampshire, who is, you've got some things on your mind with regard to the Appleseed movement.
Start over.
Shots in each target.
Yep. Tell me a little bit about what's on your mind.
Absolutely. I participated in Appleseed. I'm actually close friends with the now former coordinator for New Hampshire for Appleseed, and his name's John Barnes, and I am after being exposed to it, I'm just super enthused about it. It's a fabulous program. It's a program that teaches people how to shoot, usually using a .22 and using a World War II style AQT, which is qualification test that they used back during World War II, and interspersed with the firearms training is in fact the a detailed history lesson of the events on April 19th, 1775.
His name is Samuel Whittemore. 78 years old, badly crippled. He would set up, put his musket across the saddle of his horse, fire a round, an officer would die in the British column, and he would ride off.
And how marksmanship played a very serious role in that day in the colonists being able to fend off the British regulars. And I actually participated in a weekend training seminar where we actually went down into Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts and spent a day going through that history in detail there, and then doing the firearms training on another day.
You had indicated you have some concerns about the way they're being treated in the press. Tell me about that.
Well, there was an article in a major national Sunday magazine.
Yes, we're not going to give them any free publicity. Over obedience. So anyway, this unnamed publication, they did what? They
had a reporter actually do an investigative journalism piece on him, and it seems as if the guy spent actually quite a bit of time, you know, with a number of Appleseed weekends. It's a weekend program, you know, daytime, weekend. It's inexpensive. It's free for women. It's free for law enforcement and military. It's free for children. It's $70 for the weekend for an adult male, and so it's an inexpensive thing. And so this major publication decided to look into it, and it seemed to me that the whole 6-page article was just interlaced with as much innuendo that they could come up with that could at all, you know, turn them into the Timothy McVeighs or the domestic terrorist, you know, fear thing that they're trying to create out of whole cloth.
Domestic terrorist, Woody. The station or the publication had the editors have domestic terrorist, Woody.
Yeah,
that's what we call it in the news business,
well,
when somebody gets excited about one type of story.
Yeah,
and
they just, you know, they got the ADL involved and the, I don't know, Southern Poverty Law Center, and you know, and none of them could quite come up and say no, they're, you know, they're really this radical
thing. The
thing.
Southern Poverty Law Center has ties to an organization that molests children, so I think that maybe they shouldn't be throwing because they're tied to Homeland Security.
There you go. Well, anyway, I was you know, freaked out. I think though that the discerning reader actually will be benefited by the article because...
Oh, so will Appleseed, I bet you.
That's to lock it back. Yeah. You see the top part up here?
Shooters, your preparation period has ended.
Exactly, because they will find out that exists, and they actually let through, you know, some of the true motivations behind the whole program, and part of it is, you know, I have to say, is to have an armed population so that those who would do them harm from any source would be deterred.
Well, and that's how we avoid the violence of having a defense department.
There you go. You know, in the Second Amendment, the term militia meant everyone, and everyone was to be involved in preserving their liberties.
Can you think of some kind of a solution that would address the concerns of these sort of anti-gun people, the liberal Southern Poverty Law Center types, and the gun owners? Something that would they could, you know, bring a rapprochement or something like that.
Well, I think that the mistake that the people that indulge in those fantasies are making is not believing in the basic goodness of humanity. You know, just because we want to know how to use a firearm and be able to defend ourselves in the off chance that we're required to, is not anything that should cause you any concern. I mean, we want you to be preserved and your safety to be preserved as well as ours, and we you know, we're and I mean, I kind of come to my understanding of liberty and of you know, smaller or no government or whatever you want to say, from a standpoint of believing in the general goodness of people, and I live my life that way, and it very rarely serves me wrong. So I you know, just, you know, it's actually it's a you know, an alteration of lifestyle to accept people who I think they are.
Would you say that's the best win-win solution you can think of, or can you think of any others now that you've been talking about it?
Well,
it's pretty well put, but I just want to give you a chance to
I mean, you know, the benefits of doing that, of being that way, is that it opens you up to so many possibilities of collaborations between you and other individuals. When you go to meet somebody, you know, you don't meet them out of fear. You meet them out of optimism and curiosity and a potential for another source of joy, rather than, you know, some kind of concern.
An armed society is a confident society.
Right, and we want to be left alone, and it's an indicator. It's an indicator, especially an open carrier or something like that. I presently am not. I often do, but if you're open carrying, you are indicating to people that you're taking responsibility for your own protection, and thank you very much. Don't need any help with it.
Well, speaking of own protection, I guess maybe this isn't so much of a win-win for the anti-gun folks, but maybe it's a debating point. Could be considered a win-win. When I carry, instead of calling the police, I'm carrying, right? Or anyone carries instead of calling the police. Hopefully they're able to deal with their own problems. That saves the tax dollars that the anti-gun person would have to spend sending the police to fix your problems for you. So in a sense, I'm trying to save the anti-gun people tax money. And that's the win that I'm trying to let them have if they'll just take it, you know? Does that give you any thoughts, Dan? You're going to say something?
Well, you know, I can't argue with that, or I mean, agree with that more. I keep saying to people that, you know, when your neighbor's making noise, before you call the police, go over and talk to them. You know, if their dog is barking or if there's some kind of a problem, try to work it out directly with them. I mean, those solutions always end up being the longer lasting. And, you know, when you bring in a third party with guns and coercion and there's
nothing wrong.
Always leaves a terrible taste.
We don't want to criticize guns, even in the hands of police. To a large extent, we don't, because they have rights too.
But state guns are different than individually carried guns.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. State guns are for a different purpose.
Yeah.
State guns are to allow state coercion.
Well, they're not supposed to be, but that's what ends up happening.
Well, that's the practical result.
And when I talk about guns, when I talk about using guns ourselves or myself to solve problems, I'm not talking about firing them. I'm just talking about having them, if necessary, using them to dissolve tensions, which it seems like the police just, they don't dissolve tensions with their firearms.
And by any of the studies that have been able to look at this, which is few, because the actual reporting of this sort of a thing doesn't happen very often, but the reality is that the use of a firearm in protecting people is in the vast majority never actually firing the thing.
Right.
Sometimes never even unholstering it.
It's like a million times a year that somebody...
If you're being attacked by somebody and they're not armed, or even if they are and they just don't want to have the ante upped, if you're able to show them that you're armed, they'll go for a softer target. And if there's less and less of those softer targets, the better off we all are, as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
So.
Thanks so much for your thoughts, Dan.
Oh, you're welcome.